All right, guys, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Got the Week 6 core plays here for you, but as always, let's do a quick recap of the previous week. So last week, it did kind of suck that a lot of the players that were on, a lot of the value that were on, ended up being moved to Monday, Tuesday, or just postponed. Obviously, the Patriots game, we were kind of targeting some players in that one. It's kind of unfortunate, but ended up making some pivots that were pretty solid. There's one big miss on the Sunday morning pivot, so I pivoted on to Jimmy G on Sunday morning. That was pretty much the miss, but other than that, Davonte Freeman was a value play pivot that I made on Sunday, which ended up being pretty solid. Darren Fells at tight end was a Sunday value pivot that ended up being very solid, including some other plays like Robbie Anderson, Darius Slayton, Mike Davis, and then Zeke. Those four kind of anchored a lot of my builds, and it ended up being pretty decent. I had some lineups that had a shot to take down GPP, especially with easy Carolina stack, Teddy Bridgewater, Mike Davis, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. That was pretty easy to do, and then you kind of just filled in. That was usually my best lineup. If it wasn't for Jimmy G sucking, it would have been 5 straight weeks of cashing. In my main build, unfortunately, I was on Jimmy G, so that did not happen, but it doesn't take away from the quality of plays that were, there last week and, for the past 5 weeks now. So let's get into the picks for this week. It is a more difficult slate. I will just say that. It'll be interesting to see what Tennessee does tonight, and that'll kind of dictate what I do with Deshawn Watson. But at this price point, I don't mind him. He's kind of come on strong recently. 2 straight games over 20 DK points. He's had 3 out of his 5 games be over 20 DK points. Really, the only bad one were against 2 decent defenses, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, although Baltimore has kind of struggled recently, not been great, but, I think he'd be the pay up option that I go with right now. Then going a little bit lower, I think I'm just going to roll with Matthew Stafford. I just think he's going to be a locked value at this price point, especially with Kenny Galida back. This is a pretty easy matchup that he should be able to exploit. We just saw Deshawn Watson have one of his best games of the year, and also Brandon Cooks as well. Those two had kind of struggled earlier on in the season, and Matthew Stafford to Kenny Galida, I think is going to be a stack that I'm on a pretty decent amount here this week. And going a little bit lower, it's really trying to decide where you guys want to go. I will say that, if Drew Lock is ruled in against the New England Patriots, it's a decent value play, although, we just don't know what to expect value-wise just yet for the quarterback spot. So right now the strategy is going to be to kind of just pay up for the decent value. I will also say Ryan Tannehill going against the Houston Texans defense, the Texans defense has struggled. I don't want to attack them with the quarterback because they're the worst defense against the rush thus far. So I'm going to be attacking Derrick Henry at this spot. So let's get into Derrick Henry as a play on the running back spot. So I really like the price point here for him. He's pretty cheap here. He's just been getting a ton of carries, and I think that's going to continue on Tuesday night, which we're going to see here if you guys are watching this on Tuesday. If not, if you're watching on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm guessing he's going to have around 20 opportunities once again because he has seen that each and every game thus far, and I think that's going to continue. If that continues against Houston, it's going to be very shocking if he does not hit value. So I really like Derrick Henry against the Texans, who have just been the worst against the rush. That's just what I like to target. I know a lot of people like to look at fantasy points given up, which is great indicator, but I like to look at total rushing yards given up. I think that's the best stat to look at for cash purposes. Then after that, we kind of got to wait on news from Dalvin Cook. Obviously, if Cook is in going against Atlanta, that's going to be a great matchup. I really like Mike Davis. Once again, the spot going against the Chicago Bears. Now, the Chicago Bears are much better, but Mike Davis's floor has been raised so much just by how much he's been using the passing game. He has pretty much just been the exact same production as CMC, so you can almost just put him into your builds right now, and you're going to be sitting pretty. Going a little bit lower, there's not that much to love on this slate. After that, JT does seem like a discount. So does Miles Sanders, who, he's going to be the one getting the opportunities still. I don't mind him at that price point, although I just don't like that game that much. I don't want to pay up that much for him. David Montgomery going against the Carolina Panthers, who have given up the most fantasy points per game. David Montgomery has been using the passing game a pretty solid amount since Tariq Cohen is out. You saw 6 targets in the first game and then 8 in the last game. I do think that's going to continue, and he has actually been pretty impressive in the passing game. But I also do like Myles Gaskin going against the New York Jets. Gaskin has looked really solid, actually. A little bit surprising on film. Now, when it's not blocked up well, he really struggles, but when it is decently blocked up well, he's been taking advantage of that. So I don't mind him at this price point given the matchup. He should be the goal line back. Once again, Jordan Howard was ruled out, and the goal line duty actually went to Gaskin, which is what you want to see, which is why he finally got his first touchdown. Then after that, we kind of got to figure out, where we want to go with value-wise. It's still pretty open so far. There could be some value that opens up a little bit later on. So far, the best value that we have at running back is either Davonte Freeman or Damian Harris. I already pointed out Freeman on the Sunday live stream last week that, he looked a lot better than expected his first week back on film, and it really wasn't indicated that much in his DK production in that week 4 game against the Rams. But then against Dallas, everyone kind of saw how really good he looked. You talk about that quick twitch with the running back, he definitely has that through the first 2 weeks. Now I do expect that to somewhat fall off eventually, but I still like him at this price point. If he's going to get around 15 DK points at 4.9, we'll take that any day of the week. So I do really like Freeman at that price point. Then going on to receiver. So receiver is crazy because you got Calvin Ridley going against the Minnesota Vikings. That's going to be something that you want to exploit. After that 0, he's been pretty darn impressive. I mean, he's still averaging 22.8 fantasy points per game with a 0 in there. Yes, Matt Ryan has somewhat struggled, but still, I do like that. And you got Adam Thielen here. He's kind of priced up a little bit, but he has been super productive. And honestly, the Vikings have kind of taken advantage, or Adam Thielen has taken advantage of some really nice matchups there for him. So if you want to pay up for Thielen and Calvin Ridley, you guys can actually easily do that this week. After that, I'm going to go lower on. I do really like Kenny Galida in this matchup. 8 and 7 targets, 16.2 and 17.7 DK points the last 2 weeks. And that's with the touchdown mixed in there. I expect the receptions to go up a little bit, and I expect the yards to go up a little bit more this week. I think at this price point, it's just going to be tough for me to pass up just because he's going to be a good play at that price point. Justin Jefferson going to be a decent GPP play. Julian Edelman might be a decent play as well, but we do have the value play of Damian Bird once again. I'll get to that a little bit later on. I will say Keelan Cole, super interesting to me if you want to run back a stack with like Stafford and Galida. Keelan Cole is interesting. If you guys watched the film on this game, or if you guys watched the game live, you saw Keelan Cole wide open on all of the targets that weren't caught. So he only had 2 receptions. One of them was a touchdown. On all the other targets, he was wide open. I mean, he easily could have had 100 yards receiving. Gardner Minshew missed him, and he missed him bad. Now, it's tough to say if that's going to get corrected, but it's tough to believe that Minshew is going to have that bad of a game once again this week. Keelan Cole is finding ways to get open, and I'll take that, especially at this price point. It's not that bad of a play. Given the matchup, I like that as well. So, decent play for his price point. Then going a little bit lower, once again, I don't want to make this video too long. I'm not going to talk about all the plays, but I do like Bird once again this week. Will be interesting to see kind of what the news comes out. He does seem like he's still going to be operating in that receiver 1 spot. We liked him last week in the same matchup, so we're going to like him again this week. Didn't get that big of a price bump. It does seem like DK figured out that some people are targeting him as like a value play, but only a $500 price boost. Really still like him at that price point. Then we're going to go on to tight ends. So tight ends is a little bit difficult this week. You could pay up for Mark Andrews if you want to do that. I don't really feel comfortable doing that. Zach Ertz does need to get involved sometime soon here. He seems due to be, in for a big game. Evan Ingram seems to be trending somewhat in the right direction, although only 2 targets against Dallas. That was somewhat shocking, although we know how you attack Dallas. It's through the outside receivers, which is why we really like Slayton last week. The way that you talk the Washington football team is via the tight end. So, at this price point, it's still a little bit risky, but you could easily see Evan Ingram going for 20 DK points, and that would not shock anyone. Going lower here, so it's tough to figure out what we should do from here. So Trey Burden, he was a play that I liked a little bit last week, but it was interesting to see that he had 6 targets, 5 receptions for 8.3 yards or 8.3 DK points. Don't mind him as a play at the tight end spot. We can be perfectly fine with that, although it's not the best. And then, my showdown pick from this last Monday night was actually Irv Smith Jr. I kind of talked about him on the write-up just because I'm like, the Vikings have to get him involved in the passing game, especially against the Seahawks where, their weakness is against the pass. I kind of see that happening once again with the Atlanta Falcons. They have to get their weapons involved in the passing game, and he is one of those weapons. I think it would go, Thielen, Jefferson, and then Irv Smith, if you're taking out Dalvin Cook, I guess. Irv Smith would be that guy. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 10 DK points once again. And at the minimum price, I actually really like him as a play at the tight end spot. then that's it for me. You know, I don't really like to talk about defense too much, although I will say the Bengals going against the Colts, almost at min price. I think they're going to go above positive, which is all you really want. A sneaky play that I did last week was playing Titans D at this same price point because you knew they won't go negative. A lot of the defenses around that range did go negative. And honestly, if you're not paying up for defense, you might as well just pay down for the lowest price defense that is not going to go negative. So those are the picks for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. I do appreciate that. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.